Manchester United have opened talks for Southampton's Tyler Dibling. United are still keen on Xavi Simons, with more links with Kenan Yildiz. United have no intention of letting Rasmus Hojlund go this summer and are linked with a £40 million move for Dortmund midfielder Felix Nmecha. Harry Amass could be given more game time, and United are ready to meet Jarrad Branthwaite's valuation this summer. All this plus more in today's video as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video and let's jump straight into it. It feels like at the moment the transfer window's open because there is so much kind of transfer noise and talk going on at the moment. Some of it's going to be BS and clickbait. Some of it was probably going to be realistic, where we are speaking to agents and speaking to clubs and kind of, using the international break to maybe start, putting the feels out around prices and contracts and stuff like that as well. So some of it is going to be noise. Some of it could potentially be a little bit more credible as well. So let's run through everything. So Manchester United are interested in Kenan Yildiz. Juventus might sacrifice him even if they qualify for the Champions League. Now, that came from Dimarzio. Now, Dimarzio at one point in time was one of the most credible journalists around. Not so much recently, more of a hitty-missy kind of reporter, but very good when it comes to like Italian media and players and staff. So he's one to maybe pay a little bit more attention to. Suggesting, like following on the reports that I brought you yesterday regarding Kenan Yildiz as well, where the report was that they were, United were interested in him, and there was talks of a £17 million fee for him as well, which, I think is, obviously Juventus are going to ask for top dollar. So when it comes to they're not going to say, we'll take 50, but they're going to put what their kind of valuation is. And that's where the negotiations start from, the kind of price point. And then you try and negotiate a deal down. So it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to go for 75 million, but that's a lot of money in my opinion, for a 19-year-old, who hasn't got the best kind of goal contribution or the best outlet at the moment. 41 appearances, 6 goals and 4 assists. I'd want to see a little bit more productivity personally if you're going to pay £75 million for somebody, because we've made that sort of mistake before where we've paid a massive outlay for a young, talented, he is a really talented player and a prospect. But then, it puts a lot of weight on their shoulders as well, I think. And I can see Ineos, if you look at their kind of injury, transfer history, then, Dorgu, Aiden Heaven, Siku Kone, Chido Obi, like they're the sort of young players I think we're going to go for, the ones that are, relatively unknown, cheaper kind of developmental, rather than a £75 million for a 19-year-old who, like I said, isn't the most productive, who hasn't had the most productive season, as much as a talent as he is. Do you think he would be a good addition, though? Let me know in the comments. Should he become available? Does he fit the system? I suppose would be another question to kind of consider. Is he better than Garnacho? Is another one. Garnacho's got way more goal contributions than Yildiz has, and he's only a year older as well, but so many question marks around that kind of deal. I suppose if you could get him for a much cheaper fee than 75 million quid, then it would be an interesting option to bring in. And if you're going to sell Garnacho, then potentially, as a replacement, that wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. But again, I don't think we're going to go anywhere near 75 million pounds for a 19-year-old that's got relatively low goal involvements, in my opinion, but as talented as he is. But again, things could change if you sold Garnacho for 50 or 60 and then you get Yildiz as a replacement. That's plausible, I would suggest as well. But yeah, give us your thoughts in the comments below. So loads of questions about that deal that maybe you'll know the answers to, so let us know below. Now, one player that's probably more realistic, in my opinion, than Yildiz is Tyler Dibling. So Manchester United have opened talks with Southampton about the potential summer signing of Tyler Dibling. That came from Gimme Sport, and then Ekram Connor, who has got a large following, but I'm yet to be convinced about the credibility, is saying that Manchester United are interested in Tyler Dibling to sign him in the summer. He would cost around £40 million. The player is unhappy at Southampton and wants to leave. They were quoting £55 million for January. He is a player that we've been linked with. Is he worth £40 million? He's got 2 years left on his contract. Southampton are about to get relegated again. Is that the top price they're asking for? And then you negotiate it down. I think if you could get him for like 25, £30 million, I would be all over that sort of deal. English, so would fit the homegrown quota as well. 19 years old. Does he have the potential? Like, that's more of a realistic kind of fee, I think, for what they're looking for with developmental players and up and coming players. If you could get him for less than the £40 million, 30 appearances for Southampton this season, 4 goals, 2 assists, but Southampton are, a poor team as well. I remember watching him against us. I thought he was the best player on the pitch when we played Southampton at Old Trafford. And if ever there was a player when I watched and thought he's a United player in the making, it was Tyler Dibling, because I thought he was outstanding that game as well. And is a player that can play in a few different positions as well. Could play as a winger, as a attacking midfielder. I think he would be brought in as the inside kind of like the right 10, especially if you're going to push Amad Diallo to become the right wing back as well. I think that would make sense. Or potentially you could play him at right wing back and Amad as the kind of 10. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility around rotations. So if you remember the kind of Omar Barada was saying that they want players that can play in multiple different systems and different positions, because they want to assemble a squad that's flexible, so that if in the future Ruben Amorim leaves, they're not then scrambling around to try and get replacements. They want players that can play in different formations and different systems, because they want to sign players for the club rather than a manager. And I do think Tyler Dibling would fit that kind of mold. But again, let me know what you think about that in the comments. Do you think he's the right sort of profile of player we should be looking for? What do you think about the price? £40 million. There's a bit of a theme around £40 million, and €40 million seems to be the kind of the going number of the players that we're kind of looking for. So get involved in the comments. Give us your thoughts on Tyler Dibling. Now, another player that we've actually been linked with for a few years now is Xavi Simons. We made a bid for him before we went to PSG. That came from Romano as well. So a few years ago, we actually did make a bid for Xavi Simons. So he's clearly a player of interest, and a player that we've wanted for a while. So Florian Plettenberg, who's very good when it comes to German clubs and players, said the following: Manchester United is still keen on Xavi Simons. The club have never lost focus on him. In addition to a striker, United are also looking for a versatile attacking midfielder. RB Leipzig are demanding £67 million for Xavi Simons. So again, it's going to be more of the expensive end to go and get that sort of profile of player. He's still only 21. As I mentioned, we wanted him for a few years now as well. Got very good kind of stats, stands out for progressive passes, progressive carries, pretty decent as well. Passes attempted, he's interceptions, clearances, like he's an all-round kind of attacking midfielder. Is he the one, though? Is he the creative spark that we're missing, would be the question. And if the United think that he is he then worth £67 million that RB Leipzig want for him? Considering someone like Cunha, for example, would probably be cheaper than Xavi Simons, and is obviously Premier League proven. I know a lot of you mentioned him in the comments as well, so he's clearly a player that some of you is watching. Kind of rate, again, it would depend on what they kind of see for the system, and he's got a little bit more development in him as well, with him being a little bit younger than Cunha. But it's an expensive outlay, and like I said, is he the creative spark that we're missing? I think Xavi Simons would be perfect to kind of come in and fit the kind of number 10 position as well. I think he would be an excellent player. I've wanted him since we were kind of linked with him as well. I think he's be a really, really good addition to the squad. But the question mark is the £67 million fee. Have we got that sort of cash, and is he worth it for that sort of price range? We'll have to wait and see what the club decide. But give us your thoughts again on that one in the comments. Now, Manchester United are interested in Borussia Dortmund's Felix Nmecha, and would be keen on making an offer of £40 million this summer. That came from Bild, who are a good German outlet and good source. They were effectively saying that Dortmund, because of their financial situation, might be forced into a position where they're selling a lot of their stars, as I suppose they are a selling club, this summer, and that United are interested in Nmecha. He did come through City's youth team as well, so I think there's a Jason Wilcox connection there as well. 6'3", fits the kind of bill of being athletic and physical and intensity, can play as a box-to-box kind of midfielder, good on the ball as well, would really kind of increase the physicality, I think, within the squad. Is he the right signing, though? Do we need someone maybe a little bit more proven? Should United focus on somebody else in the midfield? The only concern I have with Nmecha. He's a very rounded midfielder. So if you look at his kind of good at interceptions, blocks, clearances, good take-ons as well. So he is like a good ball progressor, which is what I think Amorim's looking for in the midfield as well. So he's a very, very rounded, very talented midfielder, 24 years old as well. The only concern I have would be injury record. He's had a few injuries in the last couple of seasons and missed a few games, but then we were saying exactly the same thing about Matthias de Ligt and Mazraoui, and they've done a right touchwood so far this season. So, maybe the kind of the buying in players that are completely injury prone curse has been lifted. Seems to be other players that we have that are always injury prone in the squad as well. But yeah, interesting option. £40 million. You see, as I mentioned, there's a theme around the £40 million or €40 million kind of mark. Maybe that's the sort of value that we're going for players. I do think across the globe, I think the transfer fees are going to start coming down for players anyway. They have been over the last few years because of FFP and PSR rules and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It is kind of restricting clubs in what they can and can't spend as well. But interesting option. I think you'd be a decent shout for midfield as well if they decide to go down that route. But give us your thoughts below. Now, Laurie Whitworth said I wouldn't be surprised if United were able to think, okay, we've got a certain amount of players we need to get rid of. We've got a certain amount of money. Free transfers would make a lot of sense. I haven't gotten any particular names as well. Now, Laurie Whitwell suggesting that actually maybe we could be starting to look at some free transfers as well. Jonathan David's one for free. He's a player that I like as well, and that would kind of be all over doing as a deal for a striker. Angel Gomez is the other one that springs to mind. There were reports suggesting that he's rejected a contract offer from West Ham and that United are still interested in Angel Gomez. So there are two names on the freebie list to keep an eye out for as well, with Laurie Whitwell suggesting that, yes, free transfers would make a lot of sense, but he hasn't been given any specific names at the moment as well. So we need to keep our eyes to the ground when it comes to that. Manchester United are ready to meet Jarrad Branthwaite's £50 million plus valuation this summer. United would have to qualify for the Champions League to sign him, as the player is determined to join a side playing in the competition. Branthwaite is ready to consider the move. United believe they can get the deal done. Now, that came from the Sun, so straight away we need to take it with a pinch of salt, because the Sun are, not the most credible source to remain professional. But he's a player, we obviously bid for him last summer, so rumours it would make sense for maybe United to be interested in him again. £50+ million though for Branthwaite. I don't think we're going to go anywhere near that sort of deal, because that's what we were asking for last season. He's not been called up by the England squad as well. Obviously, Everton not having, didn't have the best of starts to the season. Obviously, picked up under David Moyes as well. I don't think Branthwaite's in a position to demand Champions League football as well, considering that he's the position that he's in as well. And if that story is to be believed, I would be giving that one a bit of a wide berth personally. But again, it is from the Sun, so we'll have to take it with a pinch of salt. Maybe he is a player that we are interested in, because obviously we did bid for him last summer. It's just Everton wanted £80 million, I think it was at the time for him. We bid 50 plus some add-ons was our kind of last bid, so it would make sense for us to go back in for Branthwaite. I just want to see a lot more credibility than the Sun personally. But let me know what you think below. Now, one player that we could be moving away from is Mastantuono. So Tottenham Hotspurs have been handed a significant boost in their attempt to land Franco Mastantuono, as Hotspur Way recruitment chiefs have entered the discussions over a move for the River Plate star at a time when Manchester United have decided to prioritise signing alternative targets. So that came from Dean Jones, suggesting that maybe United have pulled away from the Mastantuono deal. Maybe that's linked with the Simons, the Yildiz, the Tyler Dibling stories as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, that could be why we're not looking at Mastantuono. I think he's got like a £35 million around that sort of release clause as well. So if you're talking Tyler Dibling, £40 million, played in the Premier League as well. Maybe that's something and why they've shifted away from Mastantuono. Need to keep an eye on it though for you. But that's a player that we've been linked with for a while that would come in as one of the kind of attacking number 10s. But that report is suggesting that maybe we've pulled away from that deal as well, which would make sense if we're linked with Simons and Dibling and Yildiz and all these types of players. But yeah, let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, this was interesting actually from Laurie Whitworth, saying that Manchester United were aware of Chelsea's move for Giovanni Kenda, and they could, if they really wanted to, step in and make a move, but elected to pursue other opportunities. Now, that's interesting because obviously Chelsea, that deal came out of nowhere. It was literally like 5 o'clock in the morning. I think that Romano broke the story that Chelsea had signed Giovanni Kenda, and there was no real links with Chelsea and Kenda before that. But Laurie Whitwell suggesting that United were aware of the deal, because it was always believed that Chelsea, that nobody knew, it was all done in kind of secret. But if they were aware of the deal, that obviously means that they pulled out of the deal for whatever their reasoning is. Obviously, the more reports are that maybe right wing back is not seen as our priority anymore, and we're prioritising an attacking midfielder, i.e. number 10, and a striker, midfielder and a centre-back, although the Muppeteers suggested goalkeeper as well. And that's maybe why we pulled out of that deal. Plus, we're not in a position where we can pay 50 million and then loan Kenda back effectively to Sporting. So it's a better deal for Sporting. And obviously the player gets to stay at Sporting and then make his kind of move. He's got an 8-year contract or 7+ 1 year contract at Chelsea as well, which is ridiculous, in my opinion. But, it is what it is. It's one of these. But it's interesting that United were aware of it, but they decided not to go anywhere near that deal as well, which is fair enough. And again, the reports are maybe right wing back is no longer seen as the kind of priority for United, and they're looking more of an attack in. Again, that could be why we're linked with Yildiz, Simons, and obviously Tyler Dibling. Do you know what I mean? These sort of players, there were talk that actually maybe he's going to give some of the youth a bit of a chance there as well. Obviously, we've got Ahmad that can play there as well. So, you can kind of see why. And Harry Amass might be given some more game time at left back. I'll go through that news in a second. That could then mean you play Patrick Dorger at right wing back as well. So it does give you a little bit more flexibility. So maybe that's why they're now kind of suggesting that actually maybe that is not the priority, because we do have options there. Are they perfect options? No, but we need other areas in the squad kind of desperately. Like we need attacking reinforcements, I think, as well. Which leads me on nicely to Rasmus Hojlund. So Rasmus Hojlund's agents are doing work on potential options to leave the club this summer, with Italy seen as a good solution for the former Atalanta striker. That came from Graham Bailey. Graham Bailey is a hitty-missy journalist, so we'll need to see how that develops. David Ornstein, though, who's one of the best around, if not the best around currently, on the potential swap deal with Rasmus Hojlund and Osman, had the following to say. So he said, certainly an interesting proposition. I'm not sure how realistic it is. Manchester United spent £70 million plus on Hojlund. My presumption is they will be wanting to build with him rather than bringing in a much older striker in what would be a complicated deal. I do expect Osman to be on the move, given that Napoli let him go to Galatasaray and the future is really uncertain for him there, and United have been linked, but I'm not sure how realistic it is that United would let go of Hojlund. He is one who would raise some funds, but he would not produce a profit on the book value that he represents. So Ornstein suggesting there that even if we sold Hojlund, because of the PSR rules, it's not going to be that much profit for United. So is it worth kind of selling him if we're not actually going to make that much profit on the books? Because obviously we paid a lot for Hojlund, but then also suggesting that the swap deal is unlikely, but swap deals don't happen in football anyway. But then he also said, so I think it's more likely that United will raise funds from elsewhere, as attractive as a deal as it might sound for the transfer lovers. So Ornstein there kind of suggested that maybe United are keen to keep Rasmus Hojlund, but did confirm that he thinks that Osman is going to leave Napoli. Whether we would just do, again, the Osman one, it is what it is. It is what it is. Linked with them all the time. It's going to cost an absolute wedge in wages. But then United District are actually like an aggregator account. They don't normally post stuff themselves, but when they do, they're fairly decent, saying that Manchester United have no current intention of letting Rasmus Hojlund leave this summer. There are no talks within the club surrounding unhappiness or animosity towards him, with United staff focused on returning him to his best form as well. And I kind of think that's I don't think we should be selling Rasmus Hojlund yet and writing him off just yet. He's a young player with talent. We've seen glimpses, not this season so much, but last season of that he can be, he can be a potentially a decent striker. Obviously scored last night for Denmark as well against Portugal. I just think he shouldn't be our number one striker. That's the mistake I think United made, was just pinning your hopes on a young 20, 21-year-old and making him your number 9. and having to rely on him solely for every single game is just so unfair on the lad, because with young players, you get inconsistencies. You're going to get, seasons, bad seasons, good seasons, hot and cold kind of form. It happens with all players of a certain age. And I just think it's been really unfair that we pinned all of that on Rasmus Hojlund. So if you get I do think we need to get a striker in, somebody a bit more experienced, and then Hojlund becomes your backup. Because if you just bring in, I don't know, Gyökeres and then sell Hojlund, what if Gyökeres gets injured? You're back to the same position. You're like, well, okay, well, now we still need a backup striker. So I could potentially see that being some, some truth in that, or some reality in that as well, with Hojlund potentially staying, which I'm not against, but I know some of you will be in the comments, so let me know what you think. And then finally, let's go through the Harry Amass news. So I think Harry Amass, is a player that has got the potential to play for Manchester United at some stage. That came from Laurie Whitwell. And then Dean Jones was suggesting that Ruben Amorim is considering bringing Harry Amass into his plans sooner than expected after his impressive cameo against Leicester before the international break, and plans to give him more minutes in the upcoming game. So that's exciting for Harry Amass. Obviously, seen as a very, very young player from the youth team. The thoughts were that not quite physically ready to take that step up as well. But, and again, that goes back to what we were saying about the Kenda deal. If Harry Amass is going to be given some more minutes, that might be in rotation with Dorgu, or as a substitute in late in games, as we've seen against Leicester, or potentially Dorgu could flip to the right wing back and you could play him there, because Amorim does like a left-footed player to play as a right wing back as well. So that's not, that's an interesting option to bring to, that would be an interesting kind of option for the squad as well. And then obviously there have been reports recently that Amorim is going to try some more of the youth players between now and the end of the season to kind of give them a chance and see what they're all about as well, which is fair enough. So Harry Amass could be one of those as well. But let me know what your thoughts on that in the comments. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because it's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.